Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Bells Must Spring podcast. I am your host, Andrew Rice. No Arnav today, possibly no Arnav at all in the near future. He has taken another job, moving on to bigger and better things in his life. So while we try to find, I'm going to try to find another co-host, just kind of fill in the gaps. But you know, it's just going to be me doing these solo episodes from now on. Because as much as the Rutgers news never stops flowing, and we got to find a way to talk about it. So, yeah. Well, first of all, I wanted to talk about basketball's two victories. Maryland over Maryland and Penn State. Rutgers beat Maryland 68-57, beat Penn State 85-72. And in reality, the start of those games were almost the exact opposite of each other. Maryland, very slow start offensively for both teams. Really nothing going on until at least 10 minutes after the game had started. Very good defensive progress for Rutgers, but sloppy offensive attack to start the game. They did find their offensive rhythm in the second half and continue to stonewall the Terrapins offense. Only allowing 57 points is great in against any Big Ten team. I don't really care who you're playing. Only allowing 57 points is about as good as that you can ask for. And I want to say that they surrendered under 33% shooting across the board, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. And plus, the win against Maryland snapped a 7-game losing streak overall. So it's definitely good to be back in the win column. Just trying to pull up the exact statistics here. Yeah. They held Maryland to not a very good shooting percentage. Rutgers themselves had 41 at the end of the game, 42 at the end of the game, 28% from three, but did much better than Maryland in all those areas. The 3-point defense has really come alive in the last couple games too. It could be, again, just because the teams that we're playing, but it also could be, just the offense has come alive and the defense, has come alive. Really no other way to describe it other than that. And then the Penn State game, you want to talk about the slow offensive attack that you had in the Maryland game, but the Penn State game was almost the complete opposite. Rutgers rushed out to a large early lead. It was like 13-0 at some point before, or something like that, 11-0 before Penn State finally got on the board. They shot extremely well, over 55% shooting from the field, defended the perimeter, only let up 18% of all three-pointers. Penn State had 10 turnovers in the first half, so the defense was absolutely blitzing them, especially early on. Penn State did crawl their way back into the game, cut it down to 8 with about 2.5 minutes left in the second half. And I bet you, because I was thinking this, and I bet you that there was a lot of other people thinking this. They saw that lead cut to 8, and they thought, "Oh my God, they're going to do the Rutgers thing." They're not to bash our own team here, but they're gonna find a way to lose in the most spectacular fashion. But nope, they came alive at the end, largely due to Tariq Francis late push down the stretch. To be honest with you, anytime they score or anytime they get momentum going, I feel like we can say in large thanks to Tariq Francis. But they did what they had to do. They got the win. Now they got both wins. So now we are no longer slated to participate in the Tuesday night matchups of the Big Ten tournament. Hopefully it stays that way, because the Tuesday night matchups are going to be rough. It's going to be Oregon, Northwestern, Rutgers could slip into the mix. Penn State's going to be there. Maryland might be there. It's going to be a tough night for people that are looking for quality basketball. But, sometimes those sloppy matchups are just what makes watching basketball interesting. But we definitely want to stay, I guess, in the nobody wants to play on Tuesday, that building was empty on Wednesday last year when we had Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey, 2 future NBA draft picks, playing. Imagine how empty it would be playing on a Tuesday. It's just not a good sight. And plus, we want to go into the offseason with some momentum. I think we can all agree that Pikiell is going to be here next year. We can debate on whether he deserves to be here next year, sure. But it sounds like from the verbiage that Kelly Zinn is using, from the overall speak about how they want to get him resources and everything like that, it really does sound like Pikiell is going to be here next year. So we might as well just head into the offseason with some momentum. If they can take 4 out of 6 games going into the Big Ten tournament, finish with with 6 wins in conference play, it's not complete bottoming out. And obviously we're not rooting for this team to completely bottom out just to get Pikiell fired. But what I'm saying is he's most likely going to be here come next season. We want to head into the offseason with some momentum, because that momentum can be, when it's paired with a better NIL situation, can be used to better recruit players in the transfer portal, better recruit players coming out of high school. And that's what's really going to keep this program afloat. I think we all know that Pikiell can coach. I think the question is, can he adapt to this new world of NIL and revenue sharing and whatever? He has the staff in place to fix it. The NIL is starting to get there. We'll see if he can make that true adjustment. And because if he can retain some of these guys, I think that if he can retain some of these guys, they can develop into the defensive stars that he was known for developing. Now he just needs to find somebody who can handle the offensive side of things. And a lot of question marks heading into the offseason, but, winning a couple games at the end isn't going to hurt any of it. It's going to, like I said, help with recruiting, help with transfer portal, help with all that other stuff. Then it's up to Pikiell to make the necessary changes to the coaching staff to help what he struggles with, which is obviously game planning on the offensive side of the ball. But, always good to get a win, always good to take down our East Coast rivals. Want to head into the Big Ten tournament with some momentum. Hopefully there is some pressure on Pikiell in the offseason to make some sort of change to his coaching staff, because keep recycling the same thing and it's not working. I don't know where that pressure would come from, but the truth is he hasn't fired a coach since he joined Rutgers. They've either left or quit or whatever have you, but he's never told somebody to get out. If we want to see real change, and if we want to succeed under Pikiell, there has to be a change of mindset, or a voice change in the offensive coaching room. I don't know how exactly that would happen. I don't know if Pikiell's too stuck in his ways. I think to not give Pikiell at least another year with a competitive back office, front office, whatever, to not give Pikiell another year where he has resources that can at least compete with the other resources that other Big Ten universities are giving their basketball programs. That wouldn't make any sense to me, and I think Kelly Zinn is reflecting that. However, for him to get another year, at least in my opinion, some changes have to be made in the offensive coaching staff. Somebody new has to be brought on. There has to be some fresh ideas because otherwise it's just not working. Keeping in the trend of or keeping in the mindset of coaching changes, we're going to take a flip over to football, where football has added Minnesota defensive line coach Dennis Dottin-Carter. He coached at Minnesota from 2023 to 2025. He was officially named the defensive line coach in 2025. He was like a player assistant before then. Just going to rattle off some stats for you just to give you a little bit of background on Dottin-Carter himself. Last year, Minnesota as a team recorded the 11th most sacks in the country and posted a top 30 run defense. Obviously the defensive line plays a major role in both of those statistics. But what jumps out even more is that he played a role in developing Anthony Smith, who led the Big Ten in sacks with 12.5. And he also he ranked he's 12th nationally in tackles for loss. He does. So obviously, Rutgers has struggled getting after the quarterback. Basically, past 4 seasons, essentially, they've pretty much been a disaster at getting after the quarterback. And now you're bringing in a guy who coached and played a key role in developing the Big Ten leader in sacks. Absolutely love that hire. Very, it's what we needed. We need somebody that can not only teach a proper pass rush, can not only coach a proper pass rush, but we need somebody who pass rushers are going to look at him and be like, okay, that guy knows what he's doing. He coached the Big Ten leading sack leader. So not only is it going to help in the sense of developing the guys that we currently have, it's going to help a lot in recruiting too, especially when you can point to somebody that you developed and you played a hand in played a hand in developing and all that stuff, and say, hey, I was the guy that coached this guy and look how well he did. It's going to attract some better talent to come to Rutgers, especially on the defensive line. And we really need it on the interior defensive line in particular. Just to name a little bit more of his qualifications, he does have a lot of Northeast connections. He coached at Yale, he coached at Maine, and he coached at UConn. I believe that Maine is his alma mater. So he definitely has a lot of those Northeast connections, which is very vital to what everything – it's just vital to Rutgers. I mean, Northeast school, trying to become a power in a nearly powerhouse void area of the country. So obviously having somebody with connections in this area is definitely going to help. But when he also gained a reputation for developing quality defensive linemen at these lower levels. For example, during his one season at Yale, he played a role in developing 2 second-team All-Ivy League defensive linemen, Reed Nickerson and Clay Patterson. During his time at UConn, he developed defensive tackles Travis Jones into a 3rd-round pick and helped develop defensive tackle Foley Fatukasi into a 6th-round pick. Obviously, he's developing draft picks. And not just draft picks from a higher level such as Rutgers, the Big Ten. He's developing draft picks from places like UConn and Yale and, UConn in this scenario. But he's doing it from a much lower level and turning those guys into somebody that the NFL believes can, play a role among their ranks. Now, since he's going to have access to better talent, he's a proven developer. he's going to have access to more resources, more talent, hopefully, especially when you're considering Rutgers' defensive line. But he's going to have access to so much more compared to what he had at Yale and UConn. And the fact that he was able to develop those into stars at their level and even stars that the NFL can recognize, that just bodes extremely well for the program, extremely well for the interior defensive line, which, again, really needs a lot of help. I mean, last year we were giving up over 7 yards of rush. That cannot happen again. But, yeah, proven developer, not A plus, but very, very good hire. Very excited about this, and he's young enough where he can recruit. So if going out there helping land some of these higher tier defensive tackles, yeah, I mean it's a hire to get excited about. Absolutely. And just to finish off recent football news, football has landed South Dakota cornerback Mikey Munn. Just to clarify, in case I'm a little mumbled or whatever, I said cornerback, not quarterback. Munn played his last 2 seasons at South Dakota, his freshman and sophomore seasons. He obviously played under current Rutgers defensive coordinator Travis Johansson while he was there. He also played under current Rutgers defensive backs coach, cornerbacks coach, Eric Finney, when he was the cornerbacks coach over at South Dakota. So obviously he has very strong connections to the current Rutgers defensive coaching staff. The only reason why he was able to enter the transfer portal so late is because Johansson joined Rutgers and South Dakota was able to promote a head coach from within. And the whole thing is any player can enter the transfer portal once a new head coach is selected for their program. They have 5 days. So he entered the transfer portal really early on, I want to say Wednesday morning, and then committed to Rutgers at like 8 a.m. in the morning. Obviously there's if he was going to go anywhere, we kind of knew where he was going. Very strong connections to Finney, very strong connections to Johansson. They really helped develop him into a star at the FCS level, and now he has the opportunity to take that to the FBS level. If I was in his shoes, I would absolutely make that jump too. Stay with the same coaches who I know have developed me into a stud at the lower level, and be able to play against better competition to get recognized by the NFL and whatnot. Absolutely. But as I mentioned, he was a star at the lower level, so I'm just going to run through a couple of his accolades while he was there. Well, first of all, he's 6'1", 190 pounds, kind of sticking with the lengthy track star type build that Rutgers has been picking up in a lot of its defensive backs, because he also ran a 10.53 100-meter dash during his time in high school. A lot of speed coming into the defensive back room. We love to see that. But last year, he recorded a team-high 10 pass breakups, 59 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 1 forced fumble. He also grabbed 5 interceptions, which was tied for the best in the FCS. He was named second-team All-American by FCS Football Central and earned all-conference honors during his time at South Dakota. And this kid's only a sophomore. So even if he does have a little bit of an issue developing to the FBS level, he has a year to do it, where he can, kind of be that guy that they throw in on a rotation rather than being the starting guy. He has a year to develop, acclimate to the Big Ten FBS level, and then get thrown out there on the field. But yeah, I mean, he it's a little bit under the radar. I'm surprised. I wonder if he had more people going after him from the upper levels. But yeah, I mean, like I said, 10 pass breakups, 59 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, 5 interceptions, tied for the best in the FCS. He's clearly one of the best cornerbacks in the FCS, and Rutgers has targeted a lot of FCS cornerbacks in the transfer portal. Zamir Dawood coming from Villanova, Bradley Jones coming from the Citadel. I know there's another one. It's blanking off the top of my head, but they're expecting all of these guys to come up and translate to the FBS level. The fact is, one of them is not. Maybe even two of them are not going to translate to the FBS level in the way that they are hoping. However, since you keep bringing all these guys that were just stars at the lower level, some of them are going to translate. And with them keep adding more bodies like this and some of them translating, and we'll see, and seeing how they do, the cornerback room is going to find itself figured out. Some of these guys are going to translate to the upper level, especially with these new cornerbacks coaches. And there's reason to have faith in the new cornerbacks coach anyway. He's proven to be a developer of talent at South Dakota. And there's really not much of a reason why he can't continue to do that here. I understand the competition's a lot harder, but there's still not really much of a reason why he can't translate that to the upper level. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. But anyway, since they're bringing up so many of these guys from the lower level, we have Jones, we have Dawood, we have the kid from Maryland as well, who didn't play at the lower level, but also didn't do that great at the Big Ten level. And now you're bringing up Munn. Somebody's going to work out. Somebody's going to develop into what you want them to. A majority of them are going to develop into what you want them to under this new defensive regime. But the more guys that they add with true star power at the lower level reduces the risk of somebody not developing and then just being completely, screwed in that sense. Plus, I'm sure they have guys coming up the docket who can supplement what we have in the cornerback room. But very excited about this get. I do like the fact that Johansson has come in here with a plan to rebuild the defense, knows who he wanted to get to fill out his staff, and even knew who he wanted to get from South Dakota to help fill out the roster. I mean, I'm pretty sure that as soon as Johansson signed and they hired a new head coach over there, I'm almost certain that he knew he wanted Munn on his team because of how stellar he was at South Dakota. But again, really excited about this get. Really excited about the defensive line hire in Dennis Dottin-Carter. Just excited about the defense overall. I don't think it's going to be necessarily stellar next year, but I think you're going to see a sizable improvement over what it was last year because, well, in reality, there's nowhere to go but up. But yeah, a lot to be excited about on the football side of things, the football defensive side of things. Basketball is having a successful stretch. Always feels good to win. But another program that has been, and I hopefully not under the radar is succeeding is the wrestling program. Wrestling wrapped up its dual season with a 45-3 win over Hofstra. The one upset came in the 125 pounders, but after that, Rutgers won every single bout to secure the blowout win. They registered 3 tech falls and 3 pins and on their way to that blowout win, getting all those extra points that come with getting a tech fall and getting a pin. Really upped how much points that the Knights could possibly pile on Hofstra. But this has just been a really successful season for Rutgers wrestling overall. As somebody used to cover Rutgers wrestling for the Daily Targum, I was on that beat. Really happy to see that. Could not be for a more deserving program. They finished the season 5th in the Big Ten standings, which is one of the best conference finishes ever that Rutgers has had. They secured that finish by closing the season on a 6-match win streak. This is the program's 9th 14 dual win season with Scott Goodale as the head coach. The Knights also finished with a winning record in Big Ten duels for the second season in a row, going 5-3 in conference play and 14-5 overall. I want to say this is the first time that they have done that since joining the conference. If it's not, then it's definitely the second time. It hasn't happened a lot because they've only had 5 winning seasons in conference play. But, and also they took down Minnesota, which is like one of the big 5 in Big Ten wrestling. So being able to earn a win over number 6 Minnesota, being able to close out the season on a 6-match dual win streak really is a great sign for the program overall. And then they got Anthony Knox, who's a 125-pounder, but he's the top prospect in the country coming into college next season. So it only seems like, even though Goodale has been around for a while, it only seems like this program just keeps building and building and building, knocking down some more accolades along the way. And they're definitely earning their attention from the NIL powers that be. I assume that landing somebody like Knox was not cheap. Actually, I think I remember reading somewhere it was like the 100K mark or something like that, which for wrestling is a big deal. But with their continued success and their continued to climb the ladder, I'm almost certain that of the non-rev programs, wrestling is at the top of the priority list, at the top of the ladder. Being probably the most successful program at Rutgers, a very beloved program at Rutgers. Always good to see them climb that ladder, and they're definitely earning their dollar. Let's say that they're definitely finding ways to keep making the program better, keep achieving and getting those better accolades, especially as they keep going along, which is important for somebody that has been coaching as long as Goodale has. It's important to be able to keep finding new ways to triumph and new ways to better the program and raise it to a higher prestige. But that pretty much does it for everything that we have here today. For once, it actually seems like a lot of winning. Basketball winning, wrestling winning, football's making good hires. I mean, what else can you really want as a Rutgers fan? Eventually we all want national championships, but it's been a good week. So really can't complain with everything that has been happening around the university. But thank you guys so much for watching this solo episode of the Bells Must Ring podcast. Thank you for sticking with me for another half hour. Give us 5 stars on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, subscribe to our YouTube. It really does help us out and help us grow our efforts here. I will let you know if there. Well, obviously you'll find out, but if there are any changes with a co-host, whatever. But we might be sticking with these single episodes for a little bit. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, remember the bells must ring.